The story opened with Dr. Richard Parker, who was secretly deleting all of his research from Oscorp after discovering the company planned to use it for dangerous experiments. Before leaving, he recorded a message explaining the truth, then left young Peter with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, before escaping with his wife, Mary. During their flight, Richard uploaded his research to a secure Roosevelt server, but an assassin hijacked the plane to steal it. Richard fought back, but Mary was tragically shot. Realizing there was no way out, Richard blasted open the cabin, sending the attacker flying out of the plane. His upload finished just seconds before the aircraft crashed. Years later, in present-day New York, a Russian criminal named Alexei hijacked a truck carrying dangerous plutonium. Spider-Man jumped into action, but before chasing the truck, he saved an Oscorp engineer named Max Dillon from being hit by a car. Max instantly became convinced Spider-Man was his personal hero. Spider-Man then chased down the stolen truck, prevented the plutonium from causing a disaster, and finally wrapped Alexei in webs for the police. Later that day, Peter rushed to his college graduation, just in time to celebrate with everyone. That evening, Gwen Stacy invited him to dinner, but Peter still couldn't forget the promise he made to Gwen's father, to stay away from her to keep her safe. Feeling guilty, he confessed everything. Gwen tried to move on, but the argument only grew worse until she finally broke up with him. Meanwhile, Max Dillon continued working at Oscorp. Ever since Spider-Man saved him, he'd become completely obsessed with him, even talking to himself as if Spider-Man were his best friend. At the same time, Harry Osborn returned home after years away to visit his dying father, Norman Osborn. Norman revealed a horrifying family secret. He was dying from a rare inherited genetic disease, and Harry had inherited it too. He handed Harry a device containing years of failed research, hoping his son could succeed where he couldn't. With his final words, Norman said, "Maybe you'll finish what I couldn't," and then he passed away. The next day, the news announced that Norman Osborn had passed away, and his only son, Harry Osborn, was now taking over Oscorp. As soon as Peter saw the report, he decided to reconnect with Harry. After all, they had been best friends before life pulled them apart 8 years earlier. Meanwhile, Oscorp shut down for the day to honor Norman's death. Most employees went home, but Max Dillon was ordered to stay behind and fix a dangerous power failure inside one of the laboratories. While inspecting the electrical system, Max discovered a massive short circuit. He called for the power to be shut off, but the technician had already left. With no other choice, Max tried repairing the live cable himself. The moment he touched it, thousands of volts surged through his body, throwing him into a tank filled with genetically engineered electric eels. The powerful shock completely transformed him. His skin turned blue, the eels attacked him, and his body was horribly burned. At the same time, Harry held his first meeting as Oscorp's new CEO. During the meeting, he was told that Peter Parker was there to see him. Harry warmly welcomed his old friend, and the two spent time catching up. Peter even told him about Gwen, while Harry admitted that, after being sent away as a kid, he'd tried to forget everything about New York. Meanwhile, Oscorp executive Donald Mencken learned about Max's apparent death. Instead of reporting it, he secretly ordered his staff to cover up the accident before the media could find out. But Max wasn't dead. Inside the morgue, his body suddenly came back to life. He had become something completely different. Electricity flowed through every part of him, and he quickly realized he could control any electrical system around him. Max had officially transformed into Electro. Elsewhere, Gwen asked Peter to meet her and revealed that she'd been accepted to study in England. Peter was heartbroken by the news, but before he could respond, his spider sense warned him that something was terribly wrong. Across the city, Electro was absorbing electricity to stabilize his new body when a police officer confronted him. Startled, Max accidentally flipped a moving truck with a blast of electricity, sending everyone into panic. Police officers quickly surrounded him with their weapons drawn. Max desperately tried to explain that he wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but then he noticed every giant screen around Times Square was showing his face. For the first time in his life, he felt like the whole world finally saw him. That moment didn't last long. The nervous officers opened fire. Furious and terrified, Electro unleashed a massive electrical blast that sent police cars flying across the street. Just then, Spider-Man arrived. Max immediately recognized him. "You saved me that day. You said we were friends." Peter finally remembered him and apologized for not recognizing him after the transformation. He calmly tried to talk Max down and even convinced the police to lower their weapons. For a moment, it looked like everything was under control, but then electricity accidentally sparked from Max's hands. The officers thought he was attacking again and opened fire once more. Feeling completely betrayed, Electro became convinced Spider-Man had set him up, and with one powerful blast, he hurled Spider-Man across the square, turning the entire city into a battlefield. Electro's massive surge also overloads Spider-Man's web shooters, making them unreliable. In the middle of the chaos, part of a building starts collapsing onto a police officer, but Spider-Man dives in and saves him just in time. The crowd immediately starts cheering for Spider-Man, and every giant screen switches from Electro's face to Spider-Man's. Watching the attention shift away from him pushes Max over the edge. Furious, he unleashes even more electricity across the city. Even with damaged gear, Spider-Man keeps rescuing civilians instead of fighting back. As Electro burns through his energy, he begins to weaken, but he quickly recharges himself by tapping into the city's power grid and comes back even stronger. Realizing brute force won't work, Spider-Man drenches Electro with water, short-circuiting his powers long enough for the police to capture him. Meanwhile, Harry Osborn notices his inherited disease getting worse. While examining the device Norman left behind, it accidentally activates and plays a hidden video from Richard Parker. In it, Richard explains that his research focused on using genetically altered spiders to cure human diseases. At the same time, Peter works on upgrading his web shooters so they can withstand Electro's massive voltage. After several failed attempts and a few exploding prototypes, he falls asleep at his workbench. The next day, Harry asks Peter to meet him. Desperate to survive, he shows Peter Richard Parker's research and reveals his theory. The same spider that transformed Spider-Man could save his life too. Harry begs Peter to help him get Spider-Man's blood. Peter hesitates, saying Spider-Man would never hand over his blood so easily. Harry then points out that Peter is the only photographer who gets close enough to Spider-Man to take exclusive pictures, meaning he must know him personally. Peter refuses to admit anything, but before leaving, he promises he'll try to reach Spider-Man. Elsewhere, Gwen becomes suspicious that Oscorp is hiding the truth about Max Dillon's accident. As she digs into the company records, she discovers that every trace of Max's employment has been erased. Before security can catch her, Peter arrives and helps her escape. Gwen reveals that Oscorp is covering up the entire incident. Peter distracts the security guards, just long enough for her to get away safely. Meanwhile, Electro is transferred to the Ravencroft Institute, where the brilliant but ruthless Dr. Kafka begins running experiments to understand how Max survived and gained such incredible electrical powers. Back home, Peter finally asks Aunt May what really happened to his parents. She explains that after Richard and Mary died, government agents claimed Richard had stolen Oscorp's genetic research to sell it overseas. But Aunt May never believed that story. She reminds Peter that his father was an honest man who lived a simple life and would never betray his work. Her words leave Peter questioning everything he thought he knew about his parents. Still searching for another way to help, Peter later visits Harry as Spider-Man. Harry is relieved to finally see him, but Spider-Man refuses to give him his blood. He explains that if their DNA isn't compatible, the blood could kill Harry instead of saving him. Harry pleads with him, saying he's already dying and has nothing left to lose. He even offers Spider-Man anything he wants in return, but Spider-Man stands firm. "I can't risk your life." With that, he walks away. To Harry, it feels like the one person who could have saved him has abandoned him, and that rejection pushes him closer to making a terrible decision. Back at home, Peter can't stop thinking about everything he's learned about his father. Frustrated, he throws Richard Parker's old belongings across the room. While doing that, several strange subway tokens fall out of Richard's old scientific calculator. Then Aunt May's words suddenly click in his mind. She had always said Richard took the train to work every morning. Peter searches for the route and discovers something unbelievable, a hidden station leading to Roosevelt, Oscorp's secret underground lab. He immediately heads there to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Harry asks Felicia about the genetically engineered spiders created during Dr. Kurt Connor's research. She reveals that although the spiders were supposedly destroyed, their venom was secretly preserved inside Oscorp's Special Projects division. Using Norman's old access device, Harry searches the classified files. Instead of the spider venom, he finds footage of Electro and realizes Max now hates Spider-Man just as much as he does. Before Harry can dig any deeper, his access is revoked. Moments later, Donald Mencken arrives with the board of directors and removes Harry as CEO, blaming him for covering up Max Dillon's death. Before leaving, Mencken coldly reminds Harry that he'll soon die from the same disease that killed his father. At the hidden Roosevelt station, Peter inserts one of the mysterious tokens into an old machine. At first, nothing happens, but after striking the wall in frustration, a hidden passage opens and an abandoned train emerges from the darkness. Inside, Peter discovers his father's secret laboratory. Richard's encrypted files begin downloading automatically. Among them is one final video message. Richard explains that Oscorp framed him as a traitor after he refused to let Norman Osborn turn his genetic research into biological weapons. He also reveals one final secret. The genetically altered spiders were bonded to his own DNA, meaning no one else could safely recreate the experiment without his blood. Richard ends the message by saying he left Peter behind only to protect him from Oscorp. Hearing the truth finally clears his father's name, but it also leaves Peter heartbroken. Meanwhile, Harry heads to Ravencroft Institute to free Electro. When the guards refuse to let him inside, he knocks them out, steals a security badge, and reaches Max's containment chamber. Harry promises he can set Max free if Max helps him in return. At first, Electro doesn't believe him, but the moment Harry admits he needs his help, Max smiles. For the first time, someone actually needs him. When security rushes in, Electro instantly kills the guards with a massive electrical blast before escaping with Harry. The two form a dangerous alliance and head straight for Oscorp. At the same time, Peter receives Gwen's voicemail. She tells him she's been accepted into Oxford University and is leaving for England. Believing it's finally time to move on, she quietly ends their relationship. Meanwhile, Electro launches a full-scale attack on Oscorp Tower, while Harry forces Mencken at gunpoint to open the Special Projects vault. Inside, Harry finally finds what he's been searching for, the preserved spider venom. Desperate to save his own life, he orders Mencken to inject him. The serum enters Harry's bloodstream, but instead of curing him, it triggers a horrifying transformation that quickly spirals out of control. Meanwhile, Harry barely survives the failed serum by putting on a powerful Oscorp combat suit designed to keep him alive. At the same time, Peter leaves a giant message for Gwen on the bridge, asking her to meet him. When they finally see each other, Peter admits he can't stay away from her anymore and promises he'll move to England with her. But before they can celebrate, the entire city suddenly goes dark. Electro has shut down New York's power grid. Gwen quickly realizes they can restore the electricity from the main power station, but only if Electro doesn't destroy the central power lines first. Peter explains that every time he gets close, Electro overloads his web shooters. Gwen comes up with a solution. By magnetizing the web shooters with special coils, they should be able to absorb Electro's charge instead of burning out. At the same time, a passenger plane is approaching New York, but the control tower has lost all power. With no communication, multiple aircraft are now on a collision course. Peter and Gwen gather the equipment they need, and Gwen successfully upgrades Spider-Man's web shooters. Peter tells her to stay behind, but Gwen refuses. She knows she's the only one who can restart the city's power system. Even after Peter webs her to a police car to keep her safe, Gwen manages to break free and follows him to the power station. There, Electro is stronger than ever. Spider-Man attacks with water, hoping to weaken him, but Electro's power has grown so much that it barely slows him down. A massive battle erupts. Spider-Man traps Electro with his upgraded web shooters. When Electro blasts them with electricity, the magnetic coils absorb the energy exactly as Gwen predicted. Still, it isn't enough. Gwen reaches the control room, while Peter realizes Electro is basically a living battery. If we overload him, he'll destroy himself. Peter reconnects the city's power lines, while Gwen prepares to restart the grid. The moment Peter gives the signal, Gwen restores the power. A massive surge races through the station. Peter is thrown across the room by the blast, while Electro absorbs more energy than his body can handle. Within seconds, his entire body overloads, and Electro explodes, restoring power across New York. Back at the airport, the control tower comes back online just in time. Air traffic controllers immediately redirect two incoming planes, preventing a catastrophic mid-air collision. As Peter and Gwen catch their breath, a new threat appears. Harry, now fully transformed into the Green Goblin, arrives wearing his armored suit. The moment he sees Gwen standing beside Spider-Man, he finally realizes Spider-Man has been Peter Parker all along. Furious, Harry screams that Peter betrayed him by refusing to save his life. Wanting Peter to suffer the same loss he did, Harry kidnaps Gwen and flies to the top of a giant clock tower. Peter races after them, begging Harry to let her go. Instead, Harry throws Gwen off the tower. Peter barely catches her with a web, but both of them crash inside the clock tower as Harry attacks again. During the brutal fight, Gwen loses her footing and falls once more. Peter fires another web. It reaches her. For one heartbreaking moment, it seems like he's made it in time, but Gwen's head strikes the ground with a devastating impact. Peter rushes to her side, desperately calling her name and trying to wake her. She never opens her eyes. The woman he loved was gone. Peter is left holding Gwen in his arms, completely broken, as the greatest victory of Spider-Man's life becomes his most painful loss. After Gwen's funeral, Peter is completely shattered. He visits her grave every single day, unable to move on with his life. Meanwhile, at Ravencroft Institute, a mysterious man wearing a mask secretly visits Harry Osborn, who has been locked away after his transformation. The stranger tells Harry that he's already started gathering powerful candidates. With Spider-Man gone, New York has become vulnerable again. Harry smiles and says he only needs a small team, and everything they need is already inside Oscorp. The masked man immediately begins putting that plan into motion, starting with Alexei Sitsevich, who is equipped with the powerful Rhino armor. Meanwhile, the news reports that Spider-Man has been missing for 5 months. Crime is rising, and the city has begun losing hope. Peter watches the report in silence before discovering Gwen's graduation speech saved on a flash drive. As he plays the video, Gwen reminds everyone that life is full of victories and heartbreaks. There will be days when people feel completely alone, but hope is what keeps them moving forward. She asks everyone to never give up, no matter how difficult life becomes, because the people we've loved continue to shape who we are and inspire who we choose to become. Hearing her words finally gives Peter the strength to move forward. He realizes that honoring Gwen doesn't mean giving up. It means continuing to protect the people she believed in. At that very moment, Rhino begins tearing through the streets of New York in his massive armored suit. The police are completely outmatched. Then something incredible happens. A young boy wearing a homemade Spider-Man costume steps into the middle of the street and stands fearlessly in Rhino's path. The officers stop firing, terrified for the child's safety. Rhino laughs at the little boy. "So, you're the new Spider-Man?" But the kid never backs down. Just as Rhino prepares to attack, the real Spider-Man swings back into the city. The boy smiles and says, "I knew you'd come back." Peter smiles back and replies, "You're one of the bravest people I've ever met. Now go be with your mom." As the boy runs to safety, Spider-Man steps forward to face Rhino alone. The two charge toward each other, and the movie ends, leaving Spider-Man's journey and the future of the Sinister Six wide open.